Today we're going over the full review of this year's pirate banner. We got to see a lot from the Fate channel, but now we have everyone's stats and full skill effects. If you missed the Fate channel, the next seasonal heroes are going to be a second batch of pirate themed units. We got Vika making her Fate debut, and then pirate versions of Naesala and Surtr. Last we have Duo Hinoka and Camilla, and the Fate's princesses aren't messing around. Our 4-star focus unit for this banner will be Pirate Vika. You can get her at 4-star or 5-star rarity. As a unit, Vika will be a colorless flying beast unit. She's got an unusual stat spread with 41 HP, 34 attack, 40 speed, 17 defense, and 40 resistance. Vika will have speed and res super boons. So the first off, we can see that Vika is really only focusing on fighting magic damage foes. 17 defense is awful on a melee unit, and I'm pretty sure if an archer gets an attack range, she'll just kill over. In exchange for super low defense, Vika has very good speed and res stats. Her base attack is okay, but if you attack into any physical damage melee foes, you really have to watch out. For old skills, Vika's gonna have Glacies, to no surprise. She then has speed and res solo 3 and sabotage attack. More speed and res, and Vika can definitely throw down some debuffs with her high base res stat. For her unique weapon, Vika's gonna come with the Ebon Pirate Claw. It has 14 might, but she gets another +2 attack and the extra 1 movement while transformed. It also grants a flat buster resistance, putting her at an even higher 43 res. At the start of the turn, if any foes have less resistance than Vika, and that foe is adjacent to another foe, you inflict -7 defense and res on that foe through their next actions. You then have a combative effect. If the foe is more than 75% HP, Vika's gonna get +5 attack, speed, and res. So Ebon Pirate Claw does a couple of things. It actually has sabotage defense and sabotage res. With sabotage attack in her beast slot, Vika can inflict -7 to 3 different stats, and her base res is very high to start with. This is a fine support ability, but Vika also gets a basic +5 to attack, speed, and res for actual combat purposes. Not bad for a 4-star focus unit. Vika can apply debuffs to grouped up enemies, and she gets a bit more power for attacking. Still doesn't care about defense at all. In terms of builds and playstyles, Pirate Vika definitely isn't our usual melee unit. She should basically never get hit by physical damage foes, but her speed and res stats are really high to the point that you can build around them. For her base kit, you can keep everything. The triple sabotage debuffs can be fun, and can always use Poly C skills or Sacred Seals for more debuff coverage. Additionally, you can run buffing skills, and Vika could get both Fortify and Hone Beast if you want her on a beast team. With speed and res solo, she will reach over 50 in both stats, along with Ebon Pirate Claw, but I do think Vika wants a bit more attack in some way. You also have to worry about actually getting hit by physical damage melee foes, so if you don't run something like Dive Bomb or Desperation, then Vika really has to be careful on who she attacks. You can fit in the usual speed and defense debuffing skills with Near Trace and Rain C skills, but the lack of defense is really concerning. You could try Sturdy Impact, but I don't know if it's worth it at that point. If you're looking to use Vika on a Beast Emblem team, she can fill the niche of a high-res flyer. We have Beast units with good resistance stats with low defense for the other movement types, but for Beast flyers, the best one we got is Leanne, who is a dancer. Vika could make use of the Distant Ward A skill to fight off mages for your team. Sadly, she can't run Pegasus Flight, which I think could have been really interesting here. She can instead run more defensive buffs like Spin Res Oath or Joint Drive Res. It is a bit strange to use our 3-movement flyer as a defensive magic damage tank, but you can make it work. Vika won't really have any defensive abilities like guard, so it's mainly just lots of res stacking. Overall, I do think Vika is a neat unit. Sabotage defense and res support is great for any team. Interestingly, she would pair nicely with Brave Micaiah since she comes with sabotage attack and sabotage speed basically, and she's possibly up for a refine this year. Unusual stat spread, but Vika does fill that high speed and res niche. Next up is Pirate Naesala. This time he's a red flying beast unit and has 42 HP, 39 attack, 43 speed, 23 defense, and 25 resistance. Naesala may also have lower defense for a melee unit, but he backs it up with an incredible attack and speed spread. He also has super boons in both stats, so that's pretty scary. Naesala has some fun tricks to get around his lower defensive stats. For old skills, he's going to come with Glimmer as his special. He also has attack and speed solo 4 and speed and defense Near Trace 3. More damage and Kanto is very nice. For his weapon, Naesala has the Crossbones Claw, and this is a really strong weapon. Accelerated specials, and if a Naesala is not adjacent to an ally, he gets a bunch of effects. He inflicts -6 speed and defense on the foe and neutralizes effects that prevent his follow-up attacks. Then, if Naesala initiates while transformed, he can make a follow-up attack before the foe can counter. So, Naesala is doing something similar to last year's Pirates units. He is totally all in on the solo playstyle. He gets some very powerful effects though. He inflicts speed and defense debuffs and has the offensive part of no follow-up. Then if he's transformed, he gets Desperation. Desperation plus no follow-up is very strong. It means Naesala will always double immediately if he outspeeds the foe. Who needs Dive Bomb and who needs Flood Refresh? With faster specials, Naesala can do some nasty initiations, and he does have that extra movement when transformed. Now, not really super synergistic to his kit or anything, Pirate Naesala introduces a brand new C skill that many players may want to look at. Stall Ploy 3 states, at the start of the turn, inflict stall on foes in cardinal directions with less HP than the user. The stall status is new, and basically if the unit has an effect that grants them 1 extra movement, stall is going to convert that into restricts movement to 1 space. Stall doesn't just negate extra movement skills, instead it inflicts gravity on them, which really messes those units up. What is important about Stall Ploy is that it has no inheritance restrictions, and you just need to win an HP check. Obviously, this new stall status appears to be an answer to the insane movement shenanigans of units like Legendary Sigurd. Pirate Naesala even has exactly 1 more HP than Sigurd, so that's kind of an indicator in of itself. With the new safe defense structure in Aether Raids, it's clear they're trying to stop Sigurd's reign of terror on defense teams. We'll see how that turns out though. Now, Stall Ploy can and will affect many other things in the game. Naesala does stop other flying beast units from moving through spaces, and we have many armor skills that grant extra movement. We also have Odd and Even Tempest. Funnily enough, Stall Ploy doesn't really help against Legendary Azura, since she needs to dance to apply her 1 movement buff anyway. I'm sure this isn't going to be the last time we see these stall status, but last year we had Dive Bomb on the Pirate banner and it didn't come back for a very long time. We'll see if Stall Ploy gets locked behind limited time units as well. In terms of builds and playstyles, Naesala is pretty much ready to mess people up out of the gate. He must be by himself to activate his weapon, so solo initiations are his specialty. He has attack and speed solo, and you can tack on another one as a Sacred Seal. With Crossbone's Claw, and ideally Naesala should attack twice immediately, and since he has faster specials, Glimmer is going to proc on his second hit. In addition to attack and speed solo, Naesala is also inflicting -9 speed and defense debuffs, so good luck stopping this guy. After combat, he even has near trace to retreat a little bit. Obviously, the biggest threat to Naesala is damage reduction, but he should be able to go toe-to-toe with dodge users. He can run Wind Sweep if you want to stay safe, but it will only help in the cases where the enemy doesn't die after 2 attacks, and you're scared of the retaliation. You could run this with Gale Force and Heavy Blade. Gale Force is on a 4 cooldown, so Naesala only needs 2 Heavy Blade procs, and if you have Wind Sweep, you can just move on to another target or retreat afterwards. Naesala does have high base attack, but his weapon isn't increasing attack to help with the Heavy Blade check. That is one concern. In regards to Stall Ploy, it's really just here to entice fodder usage. You can easily replace it with a Rain C skill, Defense Smoke, or a Menace skill. Pirate Naesala is going to be another strong flying beast initiator. He's a very good unit. Our third unit is going to be Pirate Surtr. He's back for some fun, and it's going to be a Lance Arm unit this time. Surtr will have 45 HP, 45 attack, 16 speed, 44 defense, and 36 resistance. Ridiculous min-max stats all around. Surtr is once again going to be a super tanky unit to take down. For old skills, he's going to come with Bonfire as his special. Surtr then has Crafty Fighter for a free enemy phase follow-up and guard. For his weapon, Surtr has the Sea Seer Lance. This is a 60-weight weapon that excites specials. If the foe initiates combat or if the foe has more than 75% HP, you inflict -6 attack and defense on them, and if the foe can make a follow-up attack, Surtr reduces their first attack by 75%. So, Sea Seer Lance is actually the exact same as Valentine Gustav's weapon. Pirate Surtr will pretty much just be a blue version of Gustav, and they both have Crafty Fighter as well. Crafty Fighter is really good for these weapons because it means they can block specials from activating on the second hit, and they have the 75% damage reduction on hit number 1 anyway. It's going to be near impossible to one-shot Surtr unless you can get rid of damage reduction, and even then, Surtr has tons of defense and res with the -6 attack debuff. Faster Specialist is also going to be pretty dilly with some other skills. Pirate Surtr will also bring along his old unique C skill. Instead, he now has Surtr's Portent instead of Menace. At the start of the turn, if Surtr is within 4 spaces of a foe, you inflict -5 to all stats on the closest foe, and you grant +5 to all stats for Surtr for 1 turn. So, the old Surtr's Menace was actually just a dual threaten. However, Surtr's Portent is a modern day Menace C skill. The difference between these is that Threatens debuff all foes within 2 spaces, while Menace only debuffs the closest foe, however it's in a much larger 4 space range. As an army unit, this doesn't really change too much because Surtr can initiate on fire targets anyway, so he's probably only fighting the closest guy. Regardless, it still is really bad to get hit by Surtr's Portent, and now he has 4 spaces to hit someone and buff himself with +5 tall stance. Pirate Surtr may not have Sinmar's free 20 damage, but it's gonna be even tougher to take him down in one go. For his new inheritable skill, Surtr brings defense and res ideal 4. Like other ideal A skills, you get +7 defense and res if you're at full HP or if you have a bonus active. If you have both of these, then you get another +2 for a total of +9 defense and res. I believe this is the only other skill that ties Shield Session for the largest defense and res boost on a passive. The main downside is that getting hurt will require you to have a bonus active. Surtr obviously gets around this by having Surtr's Portent, and you can use Army March, although Stall Ploy technically can't counter it right now. In terms of builds, Surtr is super tanky. Seer Lance has 75% damage reduction for 1 attack and inflicts -6 attack debuffs. With defense and res ideal 4 and Surtr's Portent, you face massive stat disadvantages. If the unit hit by the -5 debuffs fights Surtr, they basically just got a +10 stat advantage for Surtr, and good luck cutting through that. For some fun on his base kit, you could use the new Steady Breath Sacred Seal. Yes, this is a thing with the next Tempest Draws, and that is pretty nuts. While Surtr could just run Special Fighter, this is a cheaper alternative to keep guard, and you have extra cooldown charge on every action. He would be able to counter with Bonfire immediately, and if the foe survives and attacks again, then you just send another Bonfire on their way. As a unit with the same weapon and similar stat spread to Gustav, Surtr can just copy his build. Valentine's Gustav is made to run the near save C skill, and while Surtr's Portent is very annoying, there's nothing stopping him from just also using near or far save. We even have the Hero Fest with both skills. What a coincidence. Now, if you want, Surtr is free to run distant counter. It would be gross with Special Fighter or Steady Breath, since most rage units are probably not going to survive an instant bonfire counterattack. Same deal as Fallen Edelgard's base kit. Pirate Surtr will for sure be another menace to deal with. He has so many stats, damage reduction, and the ability to run other special cooldown skills for fast special procs. Valentine's Gustav is pretty good, so I see no reason why Surtr won't be the same. Last up is Duo Hinoka and Camilla. These two will be a flying green archer, and boy do they have some scary potential. For stats, Duo Hinoka will have 40 HP, 40 attack, and 40 speed. She then has 23 defense and resistance. She has super boons in attack, speed, and defense. Compared to Shamir, Duo Hinoka basically has the exact same stats, just a little less defense and res due to the overall BST. For old skills, Hinoka is going to have Harsh Command Plus, attack and speed push 4, and speed and res for a trace. Res debuffs for a physical damage unit is a bit strange, but it does make sense with her weapon. The Mermaid Bow has a lot going on. It's a 14 my bow, but adds another +3 attack, and Hinoka is going to have a very high 57 attack total. It's also effective against flying and armored units, similar to the original Archer Hinoka. This is great, but it gets better. If Hinoka has more than 25% HP, she gets +6 attack and speed and adaptive damage. If she initiates combat, has more speed than the foe, and has the weapon triangle advantage, she then gets to do brave attacks. Let's break this thing down. So, besides armor effectiveness, if Hinoka is healthy, she gets more attack and speed and adaptive damage. This is very good and super easy to activate. Many army units have high defense, so armor effectiveness and adaptive damage can very easily change that matchup. Now, if you want brave attacks, Hinoka must initiate with more speed and have the triangle advantage. Basically, this means she only gets it against slower blue foes. Super high attack plus adaptive damage plus brave hits on a full 14 my bow is very scary. Duo Hinoka will destroy blue units unless they both have high defense and high res. Now, currently there is a bug with this weapon. It does favor Hinoka, but it's a very strange one. From my understanding, if you use an AoE special, Hinoka gets adaptive damage on the AoE special damage when she's under 25% HP. That should not happen, and this is going to be fixed next month. Now, for Duo Hinoka and Camilla's dual skill, it grants a +6 attack and speed field buff to Hinoka, and flying allies within 3 rows and 3 columns centered on Hinoka. She also gives them 1 extra movement. Now, in that same range, Hinoka also inflicts gravity on enemy ranged foes if they aren't flying units. So within 3 rows and 3 columns, Hinoka is gonna basically apply Honed Flowers and extra movement. This is fantastic since she gets the buffs herself. The gravity effect on non-flying ranged foes is also interesting and definitely strong for stopping enemy archers from getting a bit too close to Hinoka. Something neat is that the bonus movement is going to work with Kanto, since Hinoka has Far Trace. If she moves 2 spaces and she attacks, she's not going to be able to move afterwards. However, if you use the dual skill, she would now have 3 movement. If she again moved 2 spaces, made an attack, she now has 1 extra space left over, and you can use Kanto with that. Next, we got a new inheritable skill, Defense and Res Rain 3, inflict -4 defense and res on the foe or all foes within 2 spaces. So this is definitely a bit of a weird rain skill since not too many units really care about having both defense and res debuffs. Obviously, adaptive damage users benefit since they always target the lowest stat. Myr is an example of another good user because her Dragonstone does a defense check with the opponent, so defense debuffs are going to help with that. However, as a dragon, she still deals magical damage. Technically speaking, you can use defense and res to help other allies in their own battles. Rain skills do affect all allies within 2 spaces, or all foes within 2 spaces, so you can help allies with either damage type. For playstyles, Duo Hinoka and Camilla try to solve the old issues that the OG Archer Hinoka had. Basically, though she had an armor effective bow, that old Hinoka didn't have that much attack to punch through their high defense, and if they had distant counter, then Hinoka would just get bopped. Duo Hinoka this time has very high base attack, she adds adaptive damage, and she can get brave attacks against any blue units. This is a much better approach. The adaptive damage portion just being tied to the HP condition is key, so Hinoka will get free damage against units who have higher defense and res. The speed and res Far Trace and defense and res rain combo, Hinoka then inflicts -7 res debuffs, so that's an even more bigger difference between defense and resistance stats. She also has so many attack and speed boost on top of her base stats, so you really need to watch out. If you're a blue unit, you're in big trouble because Hinoka then gets brave attacks unless you outspeed her. If you're a blue army unit, then good luck. Now, the only issue I have with their base kit is that attack and speed push 4 has recoil damage, but Mermaid Bow has a 25% HP condition. Once you go under that, both skills are going to deactivate, so I think attack and speed catch or Swift Sparrow are better options. If you're afraid of counterattacks, which is fair, you can try to run Sturdy Impact, but then you lose out on speed. Now, there are 2 enemies I want to talk about. First is Brave Hector because he is the main blue arm unit around. Hector does nullify armor effectiveness, however Hinoka is going to get 2 attacks against him and she keeps adaptive damage. Is that enough to kill Hector? She's not going to quad him because he prevents follow-ups, and he's probably not going to get a special proc because he usually has special fighter. But Hinoka has triangle advantage and Hector's res is usually the lower than his defense stat, and Ostian counter does not boost res. It does seem like Hinoka has a good chance here. Now, what about Fallen Edelgard? Unlike Hector, Edelgard would have to run Fallen Shield to nullify armor effectiveness. A lot of them just keep attack and defense ideal, but adaptive damage doesn't care about the +9 extra defense. Edelgard does have a little res, but again, it is the lower stat. Hinoka gets 1 shot, but this time she's got armor effectiveness. While both of these scenarios seem decent for Duo Hinoka, there is a major issue, and that is the Mystic Boost Sacred Seal. Mystic Boost negates adaptive damage, which is really bad for Hinoka if Hector and Edelgard just continue stacking defense. Because Mystic Boost is not uncommon, I would not exactly give Duo Hinoka the edge with full confidence. She still has a lot of attack, but Hector and Edelgard still counter portions of Mermaid Bow, and ultimately if there are blessings in play, then that just makes the matchups even tougher. I do think Duo Hinoka and Camilla are really good, but they still have weaknesses you need to account for. That's going to be it for me. If you're not planning on summoning, we do have a Tempest Trials coming up, and it's actually the continuation of the Ice and Flame plot from last month. For the reward unit, you can get Pirate Liphis, who does have some nice stats and skills. The pirates are here to plunder your orbs before Choose Your Legends. Faye basically confirmed that CYL is the very next banner later this month, so if any of those winners interest you, then obviously you probably want to wait and save up. If you're just looking for some fodder skills, then the Pirate Banner and the Hero Fest both last for a whole month. You can very easily wait to see what skills the CYL units have before deciding where you spend your orbs. If you're summoning now, then I wish you good luck. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.